What would happen if Valheim took place in the stunning world of Lord of the Rings? Well, this game might be starting down a path to answer that very question. Welcome to The Lord of the Rings: Return to Moria. This is a survival crafting game that takes place in the mines of Moria. It's up to 8-player co-op, and my personal favorite feature means that you really might want to play with others. Let me know in the comments what you think it is. As we dive into my first impressions of the game, let's try to answer the all-important question: is this game good? Here's what I like about Return to Moria. It's got a simple story, which is ironic, I know, but it has Gimli. And not just Gimli, but it has John Rhys-Davies as the voice of Gimli.
It's the Fourth Age. Nothing is going to stop us.
That's right, the original actor voices him. Now, if only we got to hear more. Beyond Gimli, even though he carries the whole thing just by existing, the story really is simple. The dwarves are trying to gain access to Moria. An attempt goes wrong, you get trapped, and now you need to escape. Simple, right? Well, what if I told all you Tolkien fans out there that as you explore, you encounter various traces of the Fellowship of the Ring? That's right, this place is littered with history and items to read about. Your character will frequently be commenting on the legendary tales of Frodo, or perhaps teasing Bilbo. Now, I know what you're thinking. We just got a game in this world, and that was a train wreck. Well, not to worry. Return to Moria is probably as respectful towards the source material as we could hope for a game like this. But don't quote me on that, because I'm not a Tolkien scholar. What I know is that I feel very excited when I stumble into an entirely new room that feels oddly familiar, like I've seen it somewhere. Yeah, that feels great. Yes, this is yet another co-op survival game, and while it doesn't stand out for gameplay against the rest of the market, it sure does for the world itself. I mean, come on, we're in Moria. The world-building comparison to other games in the genre is unfair, to say the least. And that's not to say that the others are bad, it's just that it's the Lord of the Rings. Speaking of world building, here's another part I like. While the major story beats of the game tend to be contained within handcrafted rooms and areas, the layout of your entire mountain journey is randomly generated. It follows a sort of grid system, room-to-room progression, trying to find the right path. So what does progression actually look like? It's a pretty standard state of affairs here, but I don't think that's a bad thing. You reach new areas that look different, get the new resources, make better gear, maybe build a new base, repeat. Same old idea you might expect from this genre, but it's comparatively linear. This isn't really an open world game at all. Your ultimate goal is to get from point A to B, occasionally stumbling upon a cool room in the process. And it doesn't usually feel like it takes that long to reach the next point, which I appreciate. I also quite enjoy having an obvious end goal that I'm working towards, like making videos for you to enjoy. So if you're enjoying yourself, subscribe to the channel. I may be your benefactor, but that doesn't mean you can't be mine. Anyway, we do need to address some things. This is by no means a perfect game. Also, quick disclosure, my first time playing through this game was on someone else's world, which might be the cause of some of my struggles, we'll say. My biggest annoyance, the combat system. It's quite simple at the face of it. Light attack, charge attack, block, and dodge. But when the game decides either by eating an input or lagging through the internet to simply not let you block, yeah, that's unpleasant. Not to mention, for some reason I found the charge attacks to be incredibly unreliable. There's a sort of built-in lock-on mechanic that has your character dash towards a target when you do a charge attack. But why, oh why, does it so often decide to charge towards someone behind me who's farther away than the obvious opponent who's right in front of me? Next, the building system. The devs have already said that they're working to improve this whole thing, so I won't dwell on it. All you need to know is that it doesn't quite do what you want it to do yet. It sort of has got this snapping mechanics for a building game like Valheim, but it misses the mark. Weird snapping, no snapping, odd placements, an often unhelpful camera, pre-built buildings that aren't attached to the world grid, so everything you build in them is slightly off. You get the idea. And let's not get started on the loading zones that can pop up and get you killed because you can't leave a room of enemies. Oh, how many times? Enough gripes. I mentioned earlier that I've got a favorite mechanic. It's the music. To be more specific, the singing. I'm not kidding. I'm a sucker for music, and this game has you frequently performing and participating in various Dwarven tunes throughout your journey, making this whole thing feel far more authentic than I expected. You've got mining songs, heroic songs, drinking songs, reflective songs, and the best part is when you play co-op, each fellow dwarf can join in and begins to layer on harmonies and counterpoints to the music. The best and most important shanties that are tied to the main story end up having you hear a chorus of voices joining in, and every time I want to play it again, I'll spoil something if I keep this up. We've now explored my first impressions of the game. Is this game good? Yes, I would say so. Is it perfect? By no means. Does the mining feel tedious? Yep, it sure can. Is the combat perfect? Heck no. But to my delight, this is one of the few survival crafting games that I remained invested in for the world, story, music, and obvious progression. I have a goal, I get story beats to lead the way, the music is great, and while much of the gameplay is imperfect, it still accomplishes the mission of having you feel like a maniac of a battle dwarf diving headlong into a flood of orcs and goblins. Let me know if you've been helped and entertained. I've got a lot of great videos on the way, including a beginner's guide for Return to Moria. After all, I'm your Benefactor, and I pray you have a wonderful day.